Some of you may have started your homework already. You may notice that you need to convert. One of the homework problems goes from meters per second to kilometers per hour. So we're going to talk about how you can do that. Also, throughout the course of your life and throughout the course of this class, you might need to convert between different types of units. Now, what you've learned with these conversions can be applied to everything. I know that inches is U.S. customary and centimeters is SI, but sometimes you might need to convert from one to the other. All right, so let's start with this first one. Centimeters squared to inches squared. Now, does anybody know the conversion between centimeters and inches? Anybody know off the top of your head? Anybody know? 1 point something? Okay. Google is a great source for this information. So if you're ever stuck where you need to convert from one unit to another, you can type into Google inches to centimeters, and they'll give you your equality. Okay. Now, if you use Google on your phone or if you use Google on the computer, you'll get this result. You'll get that 1 inch. I'll make sure I don't write this backwards. Okay. 1 inch equals 2.54 centimeters. Okay. 1 inch equals 2.54 centimeters. Does that make sense, guys? Okay. Don't know why that would make sense. You guys get that? Okay, I'll set it up there on my board. You guys heard it says U.S. customary to metric conversions. Look up there, you can find some as well. All right, so there's different weights and capacity and length and all that stuff. Okay. So 1 inch equals 2.54 centimeters. So if I was going to convert 3 centimeters to inches, I would start with 3 centimeters, right? Right? Then I'd do what? Fraction bar, right? Okay. Now, if I was just working with 3 centimeters, not centimeters squared, if I was just working with 3 centimeters, where would these go? Michael?
Centimeters would go on the bottom.
Good. Centimeters would go on the bottom, so we 2.54 centimeters on bottom. And what will go on top? Inches, 1 inch. Right? Now, if I did that, if I do this, this would cancel out one of my centimeters, wouldn't it? Right? So if I was just working in centimeters, I would have my answer now, wouldn't I? If I was just working in centimeters, I'd have my answer now, wouldn't I? I would have 3 divided by 2.54 inches. Okay, you guys can probably figure that out. But in this problem, I'm doing an area conversion, aren't I? This is centimeters squared, right? To inches squared. So how many of these fraction bars do you think I need? I need 2. Because this converts 1 centimeter. This has how many centimeters in it? 2 different centimeters, right? So I need to have the same fraction bar 2 times. And that'll convert centimeters squared into inches squared. Because now these 2 centimeters will cancel out my centimeters squared, and I'll be left with how many inches? 2, which is going to be inches squared. Okay? So you multiply 3 times 1 over 2.54 times 1 over 2.54. Okay? Now if you do this, if you just do 3 times 1 over 2.54 times 2, that's not going to work. Alright, because there's 2 of them. When these are multiplied together, they're actually squared. But if you just do it this way, it works out easily. Okay? So just have that 2.54 in there twice. So what do we get? What do we get? Michael?
0.465.
0.465 inches. Okay. Now, what if instead of it being inches in centimeters squared, let's say instead it's a volume. If I was converting a volume here, what would I have here? Instead of a squared, I'd have a cube. How many times do I need this? 3 times. Okay? So, however many times you have the exponent, that's how many times you need to convert that, do that conversion. All right? Any questions about that one? Questions about that one? Okay. Now, a lot of times in this class, we're going to be working with meters per seconds, but to us, if we were in Canada, we'd be worried about kilometers per hour, wouldn't we? But we're not in Canada. But it's a good conversion to look at, right? So in this conversion, I'm going to convert meters to kilometers, and I'm going to need to convert seconds to hours. So let's worry about meters to kilometers first. What does kilo mean? Times 10 to the third, right? So that means I know 1 kilometer equals 1 times 10 to the third meters, correct? Right? Now let's look at the seconds to hours. How many seconds are in an hour?
60.
Whoa, not 60. There's 60 seconds in a minute and 60 minutes in an hour, so it's going to be 60 times 60, right? And what is 60 times 60? 3,600. So 1 hour is 3,600 seconds, right? Right? Yeah. Now, let's say, guys, let's say just in general, I had 1 second, and I want to see how many hours that was. Right? Oh, not 1 hour. Let's say I had 1 second, I want to see how many hours that was. How would I set up my fraction bar? If I had 1 second, I want to go to hours. What would go on bottom? Seconds would, right? So I'd have 3,600 on bottom, right? And what would go on top? 1 hour, right? And that's if I was going to go just from seconds to hours normally, okay? But in this problem, where is the seconds? Where is it in my unit? If I have 5 meters per second, where's the seconds? On the bottom. Is that going to pose a problem? What do you guys think? Would I use 1 hour, 1 over 3,600? What am I going to do, Lynn? We're going to have to flip it. Okay, good. So, for this, I'm converting 2 units, so I need 2 conversions. I need 1 for meters and kilometers, 1 for hours and seconds. Now, my meters and kilometers one, what goes on top? Kilometers. That's what I want. Right? And then for my hours and seconds ones, seconds is on the bottom, isn't it? And where do I want hours to be in my answer? On the bottom. So this is where the what I want, what I don't want thing kind of flips over. Because I want hours on the bottom. I want hours on the bottom in the end, don't I? So where do you think hours goes in this fraction? On the bottom. So the 1 hour goes on the bottom. Okay? And where does the seconds go then? On top. So now, since meters on top, meters on bottom, they cancel, don't they? Yeah? Seconds on bottom, seconds on top, what do? They cancel. Okay? So now I can just multiply through. Right? 5 times 1 divided by 1e3 right here. So 5 times 1 divide 1e3 times 3,600 divide 1.
How did you type in E3?
Hit second, comma 3. Hit 1 second, comma 3. Good question, Kevin. Kim. The E fills in for times 10 to the 3. Okay? Because your calculator sees multiplication. If I multiply by a number, that's a new number. Whereas if you use the E, it thinks about the 1 times 10 to the 3 as all one number. Okay? Which is the way we're treating it right now is all one number. So what do we get? What do we get? Michael?
18 kilometers
18 kilometers per hour. It's a nice round number. It's like there's some preparation involved, huh? Does that make sense, guys? Kim? Okay, because in my original unit, seconds was on the bottom. So in order for seconds to cancel, you can't go on the bottom because it's the second squared, right? So I have to go where? On the top. It all goes back to algebra. If I want things to cancel out, they got to be on opposite sides of the fraction bar. Anyone else? Is that time, Sheldon? Anyone else? No? So does that make sense? Now number 8 on page 7 looks a little bit easier, doesn't it? Hopefully. All right, last one, miles per hour to meters per second. Now, I'm pretty sure this one is not in your homework, okay? But this one is a good conversion for us to talk about. Now, this is one of those things where we could convert miles to meters, we could convert seconds to hours, but there's that fancy thing called Google. They have a conversion for us for miles per hour and meters per second. So what Google tells me is that 1 mile per hour is 0.447 meters per second. Okay. So 1 mile per hour is 0.447 meters per second. So thank you, Google, for that. I literally just typed in miles to meters per second, and they gave me that. Okay. If I typed in meters per second to miles, then it would say 1 meter per second equals the inverse of 0.447, so approximately 2 miles per hour. A little bit, not exactly 2, but you guys get the idea. So, how can I convert this? What should I do? What do I start with? 5 miles per hour, right? And then how many fraction bars? If I have this one equation, how many fraction bars do I need? I just need 1, right? Now, if I was going to go miles to meters and hours to seconds, then I would need 2. But since I have a conversion, I have 1 conversion that encompasses it all. I just need 1 conversion. Okay? So my 1 conversion. Now I'm in miles per hour, so which one goes on top? Meters per second. So 0.447 meters per second goes on top. And what goes on bottom? 1 mile per hour. So can you guys figure out how many miles per hour, or how many meters per second 5 miles per hour is? Kind of wants it to. Kind of excited. 5 times 0.447. Okay. So we get 2.235. So as we talk about miles per hour and meters per second, you can think about basically just a good approximation, every 2 meters per second is basically 5 miles per hour. So if we're going 10 meters per second, that's like going approximately 20 miles per hour. That'd be like a rough conversion. Do these make sense, guys? Hopefully you can see that what we learned with prefixes works for any type of conversion. All right? Are there any questions? Any questions? No questions?